Right, hello boys and girls, this is Mrs. Shaw live from my kitchen, no less. It is in the middle of the Easter holidays and I thought I'd do a quick video just to show you exactly what our plants are doing because I've been keeping them safe now since school ended, but I'm a little bit worried that some of them might die before we make it back. So, without further ado, these are our plants. You will notice there is one missing and we'll get to that in a moment. But I thought we'd go through each of them and see what they're like at the moment, just in case they change a bit more before you end up back at school. So let's start with number 1. No water. Now, before the end of term, this one was the best. And it probably still is now, but I think you can see that something's starting to happen. So if I hold it up very carefully, it could be quite a tall plant, but something is starting to happen to it, and I'm sure you can all tell me what that is. Now, I think lots of us, me included, are quite surprised that this one has grown. So we're going to talk about this more in a minute, but I'd like you to start thinking about ideas as to why this has started growing. What could it have been that made it start to grow even though there was no water in the soil? And why has it stopped growing? Because we haven't added any more water. So why did it grow in the first place and why has it stopped growing? Start thinking about that one. Next one, no air. Now, nothing at all has happened in this pot. I'll try and show you. It's just kind of mud right down the middle, and very slushy mud at that. It's very, very wet. And I have my theories about why this has happened. So, we've been keeping our plants. We kept them on the windowsill in the classroom, and I've been keeping them on my windowsill at home, which means that they've been getting lots of sunlight, which is good because that's what plants like, right? But I think that because none of the water has been able to escape from our pot, it's ended up actually making too much water. So you'll learn about it more in year 4, but water does something called evaporating, and you'll have seen this happen if Mum and Dad have boiled a pot on the stove, or if you have seen the kettle boiling. Basically, when water gets too hot, it starts to rise up into the air and it evaporates. And normally when that happens, it just goes into the sky and eventually turns into clouds. But what's happened in this pot is that it's had nowhere to go. So when it's got to the top of the pot, it started to do something called condensing. Lots of big words, okay? And when it condenses, that's when the little water droplets form, which I think you can kind of just about see at the top. So the water has been going in this constant cycle of going up to the top and then back down again to the bottom, which means that none of the water has escaped. So when I've watered it, it just stayed, oops, very, very soggy. Let's have a look, seeing as that accidentally fell off. See? Ugh. And I think because it's so soggy and because none of the water has been able to escape, it means that our plant hasn't been able to grow. So unfortunately, Team No Air, your chickpea, I think is probably dead and rotting in the bottom of the soil. Next one we'll have a look at is our no nutrients from the soil. Now this is another one that was starting to grow before we broke up for the holidays. And if we have a look inside, it has grown a little bit bigger. So that's it from the top. Got some lovely mould growing on our tissue. Looking forward to throwing this one away. And we can see that it's grown quite big, but if we put it next to Mr. No Water plant, I think it's easy to see that it's not as big. And again, I think we're going to talk about this in a moment. So I'd also like you to start thinking about why it started to grow, okay, but why it hasn't grown very big and why it hasn't grown as big as the No Water plant. Okay, so thinking about the No Water plant and the no nutrients plant at the moment, trying to work out why they've grown but haven't maybe grown perfectly. Okay, what is there inside the seed perhaps? Maybe think about mummy's tummies and what helps babies to grow. Moving on, we have no room to grow, our little diddy pot. And sadly, and I'm really, really surprised by this one hasn't grown at all either, but you can see that we've got some other little plants. There must have been some seeds in the soil for what looks like, oh no, clover and grass. But our chickpea hasn't grown, and I'm really surprised by this because in theory it should be able to grow. I would have thought that it would grow a little bit, but when its roots kind of ran out of space, it would stop growing. So I'm really, really shocked. And I'm tempted to try that one again. I might put another chickpea in when we get back to school and see if it will just grow this time. It might be that the chickpea was bad, but I might be wrong. We'll have to wait and find out. And then last of all, and I wonder if you can tell me which one it is that we're missing, we have no light. And just to prove to you all that I've been keeping this one safe, I kept it in my cupboard down here. And you'll see all of my lunch boxes. And down here is our no light one. Now the lid of it went missing on the journey back from school to home, but we can see this one as well. It's just kind of gone a bit soggy, so a little bit like the one that had no air. I think perhaps because it was in the darkness, the water hasn't evaporated properly. Okay, you can see it on the edge there, and that means it hasn't grown either. And this is another one that I was surprised by, mostly because I did this experiment as a child. And one of the things I really, really remember is the no light plant growing really, really big, but then the tendrils get really spindly, okay, and they start spinning out of control and going a little bit crazy. So I might give that one another go along with the no room to grow one. But there we go. Those are our plants. No water, doing well, but starting to go wrong. No nutrients from soil, a little diddy plant, but it's not grown for a few days now, so I don't know what that one's starting to do. And it looks like some of the leaves at the top there are going brown and shriveling already. Then the other three, sadly, have not come to anything. They haven't grown at all. So, just to recap, my questions were about the no water plant. Why did it start to grow? And what's happening to it now? And also about the no nutrients one. How did that grow, even though there were no nutrients in our lovely classroom tissues? Think about it, talk to your partner, and we will discuss it in a moment.